Good day, everybody, and welcome to The Heart with Byron Jamal. I'm so glad to be with you. I am really excited about our talk today. It's actually going to be a great one. We're going to have an amazing time talking about love and success. I have two amazingly brilliant women on today to talk about the power of love in our lives and how relationships work in order to do great things for us and those around us. So I'm really looking forward to this talk today. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Byron Jamal. I'm a love and success coach helping ordinary people find extraordinary love by falling in love with their everyday lives. I'm looking forward to you pulling something out of this heart episode with any one of the amazing comments that's going to happen today. Just wait on it. We're going to tap right in, though, and get our first guest that's going to be on with us today. Miss Laura, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this talk today. How are you?
Hey, Byron, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks so much for having me. How are you doing? We're entering a crazy week right now. So are you stressed out or are you doing okay?
You know, I fortunately, I'm in a good spot where I pre-planned all of my gift giving and all of that. So I'm cool. What about you, though? Have you gotten all of your gifts out of the way?
Yeah, well, this is one really weird year, and we're in California, so we are on lockdown right now, which has, does not exactly help with the whole holiday gift buying experience. I have a bunch of gifts that are currently lost. Well, maybe loss is extreme. They're somewhere in the USPS or UPS system, so they may end up here, they may not. It is what it is at this point.
Absolutely. We're all bracing for the reality that it may not come on time.
Yep.
That's where we are right now. But I'm so glad to be able to talk with you today. I want you to just tell everybody a little bit about what you do and how you got into it.
Yeah, well, it's, I feel like we all have some long twisting journey that gets us to where we are. I actually spent 16 years as a TV sports anchor and reporter. So completely different world than what I am doing now. And, I realized after a decade and a half of talking to a very specific audience, a sports audience, I loved it, absolutely loved it. But I realized that I was so much more passionate about talking, especially to women, directly to women. There were so many things that I dealt with as a single person specifically before meeting my husband that were so heavy and so just made me miserable despite all the other great things that were in my life. That was the one thing that just seemed to control everything else. And it took me years and years and years to figure out how to get out of that, how to make my life meaningful and purposeful, even without having that one person who I could spend the rest of my life with. Yeah. And once I figured that out and kind of got to this point where I changed my own expectations and my own really perspective on life, I realized just how deep I was in it and how I didn't know how to get out, and how important now it is for me just in telling my stories and what I've been through and how that can help other people. The biggest thing, just knowing you aren't alone. You might not be in a relationship, you might be single, but you are not alone. You are never alone. So now I work with women. I'm a coach, and we work on refocusing those expectations, all of these kind of outdated societal norms that we just have, that are just like so heavy on us, but no longer really apply to so many of our lives. And figuring out how to refocus on what expectations mean, what happens when we don't meet them, how we keep going. And so that's really what I do. I'm a speaker and a writer as well. And this is so different from what I used to be doing, but I've never felt more reward from working with people every day and just talking about life and being real and authentic, and trying to put aside this whole idea of perfection that we see on social media. And let's talk about really what's going on in our lives, because we all have a lot more in common than we might think.
That is absolutely true. And I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of people feel with where we are in the country, it's so much division. Everyone's got their sides to the corner that they're choosing. Everyone's picking a side and staying there. But realizing that we are, as I tell most of my clients, uh, more of us are definitely more liberal in private than we are in public. And joining groups and being a part of groups that have one thought is normally the more conservative thought in the entire group. But in essence, in truth, if you talk to everybody one-on-one, it'd probably be leaning a little bit more on the liberal side, because we all want the freedom of expression and don't want to be bound to certain things. Now, the great thing about what you do and how you're doing it, you're really helping women to find that love within themselves, and not so much finding a mate, but finding the beauty within. How did you come to a place, because that's not what's taught today? So
Yeah.
how did you get to a place where you learned that for yourself and are able to give that to other women?
Isn't that a great question? No, you're right. I did not meet my husband. I'm 41 now. I did not meet my husband until I was 35 and a half. And I always say that and a half, because when you are single, that you feel that. So I was 35 and a half. And when I met him, I had never had a relationship before. I had never had a boyfriend. I had never had my parents had never met anybody like this. This was it. So I was convinced I was broken. Like, who ends up at 35 and a half without a partner? The way our society conditions us, we start to think that there's something wrong if you aren't in a relationship. We put so much status into a relationship status, and it's really, really tough. And the pressure that you feel when you are single, this world seems to be made for duos. It's a couple's world, and when you're a single, people don't necessarily know what to do with you. And so I struggled so much with that. And like I said, I thought I was broken because the only resources that were available were, a guide on how to play the game. I used to live in New York City. I can't tell you how many lists I read that were like the best bars to meet a man.
Yes.
All it was, what you're doing wrong on the first date, what you can do better to make sure there's a second date. All of these things were basically telling me that being single was something I needed to change. And I couldn't just be me and who I was.
Wow.
So it took a lot. I mean, I was in therapy. I still am. I'm a huge believer in therapy. But even more than that, it took me just sitting with that misery that I was in and beginning to realize the effects it was having on my other relationships in my life, with my family, with my good friends. I was very angry. I was very, very negative. No one wants to be around that. It was affecting the rest of my life. It was affecting my stress level. It was affecting my ability to enjoy my work, to enjoy my life in general. And so I started to do things on my own. All these things that I said, well, I can't take that trip until I have somebody. I can't go do this until I have somebody. So I was like, you know what? I want to go to Mexico. I don't have anybody to go to Mexico with. I'm going to Mexico by myself. So that's what I did. And that I did that would have been, I think, March of the year that I ended up meeting my husband. And that it was right after I had turned 35. 30 to me was no big deal. 35 freaked me out. I was like, 40 is right there. So you're still single. What the hell is going on? And that trip was kind of the beginning of, it was the second time I traveled by myself, but the first time that I really embraced it. Wow. And I got back from that trip and I started thinking, like, I was so excited for that trip. I was so excited when I was there. I loved it. I loved that I got to do whatever I wanted. I loved that I could eat where I wanted. I could drink however much I wanted. It didn't matter. I could sit at the pool. I didn't have to worry about somebody wanting to go to the beach or vice versa. Silly little things, but stuff that makes you happy. And I started to realize how I could kind of start applying that to the rest of my life. And I realized that what I had been doing for so long was telling myself that I had to get married and I had to have children, and that is the only way I had a future. Yes. So whenever I looked far off into the distance about what my life was going to be like, it was based on having a husband and having kids. So the fact that I didn't have either of those was basically making my future in my head blank.
So you were taking what you were taught that is the good thing for your life, to have the kids, have the husband, the white picket fence and all of that. And you were causing that to be the centering point for your happiness.
Exactly.
That we do that
Yeah.
we don't go inward to find the thing that makes us happy. It's this is what's supposed to make you happy. Now go
Mhm.
get it. And
Yep.
if you don't get it, then you shouldn't be happy. Why are you happy? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, just look at the way other people react to single people. I mean, when you're single, you walk into a room and like, or you go home for the holidays, or you see family, friends, whatever it is. The first question: are you seeing anyone?
Right.
If you are
First,
seeing someone, when are you getting married? If you have just gotten married, well, when are you having kids? It's
yeah.
this is the traditional way that you're supposed to go about it. And when you don't, people don't quite know what to do with you, which I know for me, I internalized. And so I didn't know what to do with me because I wasn't following what I should. Also,
Yeah.
that was the road my parents followed. That was the visual I had. They met at 20.
Wow.
So, they told me I could be whatever I wanted in my life. I could do whatever I wanted. So I did, but it didn't match up with the life that I had seen from them. So I didn't really know what to do. So it wasn't until I finally gave myself permission to have a future that was completely mine, that I could create. It wasn't until that happened that I finally was able to get excited. This blank darkness that was spreading before me as I saw as my future, all of a sudden I got to shed some light on it. And I got to think about, okay, well, I could do this. I could do that. I could live here. I could live there. All of these things. And as soon as I started to embrace that and love that, 6 weeks later, I met my husband.
Wow. So
And I don't tell women all of this.
attraction, the law of attraction in that sense.
I think so. And, I don't tell women this to be like, so if you get to this point, don't worry, you'll find him or her or whomever you're looking for. But because I was in that mindset, because I had finally embraced who I was, meeting my husband, he was the first man who ever met the actual me instead of the me I was trying to put out there so that I could get a guy.
Yes.
And here we are.
Playing a role. We end up playing a role when we're on that stage.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. When we're told this is what you should do and this is how you should find him, I met so many people. I tried to be their perfect match instead of asking, are they mine?
Wow. This is good. Because this is what we do. We want someone to work so badly that we will adapt and adjust and change and maneuver our lives in order to fit them, when really it's supposed to be two whole people, two unique structures coming together and forming one life. And I love one analogy of someone talking about being on the same road but two different lanes, and it'd be okay that we're still just going in the same direction but in two unique vehicles. I don't need my Lexus to be your Honda. It doesn't we can be two unique beings and be that way. And I'm glad you got to that place. What was the feeling that you felt in that moment when you realized, I like this being me thing?
There was truly this moment, and I have no idea why it happened. I have a younger brother who got married years before I did, who has 3 children now, who he followed a more traditional path, and he's my younger brother. So the whole time I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? He lived in San Francisco when I was in New York, and I was out visiting him. He had just had his first baby. So I'm surrounded by all this stuff that I wish I had, but I don't. Yeah. And I was struggling with it. And it was an absolutely gorgeous day in San Francisco, where back in New York, it was probably cold and snowy. And we were walking around in the sunshine, and he grabbed coffee that morning, pushing the baby in the stroller. And It was a neighborhood in San Francisco that I absolutely loved. And I saw this older woman coming, like probably 80s, by herself. She was walking down the street, had this huge smile on her face. We never spoke. We never even made eye contact, but I watched her walk by, not a care in the world. And something like switched on in my head, where I was like, well, that could be me. If I want that to be me, that could be me. I could come out here. I could live out here. I could buy a house here, out here where I really want to be. I could be near my nephew. And I knew there would probably be more nieces or nephews along the way. I could spoil them. I could do whatever I want. I could walk out on a beautiful, gorgeous day and just be me. And so I wish
Mm,
I knew who that woman was. And I wish I could tell her that, like, you changed my life. But
mm.
all of a sudden, it was just like this weight lifted off of me.
Mm.
And I was seeing myself for who I actually was for probably the first time in my life.
Wow. That's such a not to use Oprah's term, but an aha moment. When you have that moment where you look in the mirror and you've been looking at this person for years and half of years.
Yeah.
And in those moments where you thought you knew yourself, and then something clicks and you're like, wait a minute, I have been doing this thing with a mask on all this time and was never really looking at the true me. That is such an awakening moment. And how did that change the relationships that were around you?
So one of my good friends who was also single, we were, in New York, we were in the same career together. We were, we got to whine to each other when a date didn't work out. We got to talk about who we thought was really cute, all that fun stuff. And in the couple of years before that, I wasn't quite seeing her as often as I had. We still would see each other, but it wasn't quite the same. And I just kind of had thought, life was getting in the way. I don't know what's going on. Well, I was finally kind of reaching this point where I knew I was a different person, or at least I knew I was treating myself differently. And I invited her out for drinks, and we met at this wine bar in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. And I was so nervous for her to get there. I didn't really know why, but I was so nervous. And she sat down and I was like, hey, I want to tell you what's been going on, because I know we haven't really talked a lot lately. And I kind of explained what had happened and how I was feeling and how I was approaching things. And she was like, I'm so happy to hear you say this. This is so great. She's like, honestly, I haven't been seeing you as often because I couldn't. You were so negative. And it was really becoming hard for me, because I'm trying not to be negative too, because I want to find somebody also. And I couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, holy crap. I had no idea I was doing that.
Wow.
No idea. And I know it took a toll on my family too, because my parents, so supportive and loving, all they wanted was for me to be happy. And here I was so unhappy. My dad said at one point, I feel like we have Laura back. It kind of made everything in my life feel like it fit together a little bit more. And the parts that I had maybe been holding on to because I thought, oh, I was supposed to still have that friendship, or I was supposed to still be doing this or that, suddenly it didn't feel as important anymore. And I felt like I could let it go.
That's big. Finding the true you means sometimes letting go of, and it's sometimes not even letting go. Sometimes it is allowing to be released what doesn't really fit anymore. I use the analogy of a tree in its season lets go of its leaves, and there's no heartbreak. It's knowing that in order for the tree to survive that season, it needs to release to maintain the nutrients for itself. And that's actually self-care, to let go. And I think that's a beautiful thing and a beautiful moment when you can awaken and realize this season I'm in right now, I need to, whatever's going to be in my life right now needs to be nutrients and not anything that's going to draw strength from me.
Oh, so. Totally. And it's no surprise. And it changed the way I thought about my career, changed the way I thought about the work that I did. And 2 years later, I left the business and made a complete career change at 38. Wow. So it just, because this is more me now than that was. I'm thankful for that time, but I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that. I mean, it's really happy. It's really good to hear someone who saw where they were, and accept the reality that this wasn't a good space to be in, and then to make a change. Many of us will get stuck in that thing and just complain that everybody else is wrong, or complain that that's how society is, and you can't change society and all those kind of things. So glad that you actually had the courage and foresight. For someone like you who's now got a new group coaching program coming up in February, what was the inspiration for creating that?
everything we've just talked about. I think it took me so many years to get to this point, and I was always such a private person, especially when I was in TV. I was so private. I was embarrassed that I didn't have a boyfriend, and I never had a boyfriend. I didn't want anyone to know about me, and all of that. I was worried about the stigma that came with it. And once I met my husband and I was out of TV and I finally was able to really like speak who I was and my truth, I would talk to other women, especially single women, and I tell them stories about what I went through, and seeing that, I remember one just like taking me by the hand and saying, "You give me hope. You give me hope." And I'd never thought about that. And that was 3-ish years ago. And so ever since then, she kind of planted this seed about like what I could do, how I could take my experiences and actually do something more than just tell my story, but actually help people get to where I got to, or their own version of what I was able to get for myself. So group coaching actually is what it's called. And I'm so excited. It'll be small groups, no more than 10 women, because I think that sense of community is so important. We talked about this at the very beginning. You don't have to have the exact same experiences. You don't have to have the exact same background and lifestyle to understand how another person is feeling and to be able to completely relate. Yeah. And so the idea of having a small group that can work together to support each other, to hold each other accountable, to remind each other, okay, we got this, we can keep going. So it's a 10-week program, and I lead the whole thing, and we're working on setting aside expectations, or at least the old expectations, reevaluating what that means, and then setting not necessarily expectations, but a new perspective about what it is that truly does make us happy. So I'm not trying to teach you or coach you on how to find a husband or a partner. I am trying to help you love the life that you have right here, right now, no matter what happens in the future.
I love that. That's really good. Brilliant. Wonderful. How are you, as someone who answers this question maybe more often than you want, but how are you able to really make the change and stick with it once you've made a change to be a different person? How do you actually stick with it? Because I know a lot of people coming into the new year are going to be making resolutions and setting action plans and doing, fasting and working out and eating better. How do you stick with it? What do you help when you talk to these ladies? It's going to be in February. So what are you going to be telling them? This is how you keep it going, keep your momentum.
Well, the thing is, it's constant work. I am not at a perfect place in my life. I don't think that exists. Right. I met my husband. I found my happiness in who I was and where we are. And the roller coaster ride that I have been on since meeting him has been insane, and here we are. We met later in life. Here I am, 41 now. We are trying to start a family and have had all sorts of challenges with that. That's hard stuff, so you're never going to get to this point where you're all good. You're all figured out, sorted, it's done. It is a constant battle each day to remind yourself of who you are and what you offer. I think gratitude, a lot of people talk about gratitude and it sounds so simple. And I think people can be like, oh, fine, gratitude. Okay. Yeah, whatever. I think it's important though, like little things. I have something as simple as I have a gratitude journal where every day I try to write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And they can be stupid things like, my dog wore a cute bandana today and he looks adorable. I mean, it can be things in your life things to remind you that there are great things. And I think another thing is that we as humans need to keep talking to each other about what we're going through and need to keep reminding each other that we can do this, we can get through it, and it's not perfect and it's not always going to look good. And some days you're going to wake up and you're not going to feel it. And that's okay. That is absolutely okay. I think one of the most important things we can do is give ourselves a break, is give ourselves some grace and not think that today I have to have it all figured out, because we don't.
You don't. That is so. One of the things that, and I love how you said it. So you said it so eloquently. One of the things that I do teach is in the 7 steps that I give to self love
Mhm.
is the first. I base it off of the creation story. So if you look in the Bible, God created the earth, and it started off with emptiness and void, and there was no complaining about that darkness or that void. There was no uh, bemoaning it. There was just a complete acceptance of it,
Yeah.
and being able to sit in something and realize something is what it is, and being able to just this is what it is. This is okay. There's some I'm missing some things here. There's
Mhm.
no light in here. There's absence here, but not complaining about it and being in a space where you can be completely yourself and still be completely without something is probably one of the most beautiful things in life, because you realize that even without, you still are,
Mhm.
and you are enough even not being better. And so in that, it feels good. It's like, wow, I don't, before God ever had to say let there be light, there was enough of God to still be amazing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's how we should think of ourselves before I go on this diet, before I go into this course, before I try to improve my eating habits. I'm still good. I'm all right. And it goes back to your earlier conversation about when you're single and everybody's saying, why aren't you? Why aren't you? Why aren't you? Why aren't you? And it's like, I'm enough.
Yeah.
Even whenever this happens, if it
Yeah.
happens, I'm still enough.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
Oh, it really is. And I think it's also important to allow ourselves to grieve what it is that we might not have or who we might not be, or what that thing is. I think we always think of grief as somebody
Yeah.
has to die for you to feel it. But grief is losing anything that you love or
Mm.
anything that is important to you. And so these expectations that we have set and what you think you should be doing, when you lose that, that's grief. You deserve to be like, wow, this is not what I thought, and I'm not happy about it. This is hard. You deserve that. You have to be able to give it that space so that you can move into what is next and what is, what is really right for you.
Yes, that is so true and so good. What for you was the motivation to start the actual company after stepping away from TV?
So, I decided, I left TV and I was like, I think I'm going to be a fashion influencer. I love fashion. This is what I'm going to do. And I started doing that. And I was like, no, this is not right. And I started, like, I was, as I mentioned earlier, I started kind of, it was the first time I felt comfortable talking about myself and what I had done, and things that had happened to me before. And
Yeah.
there were some women I had talked to who were a bit younger than me, who were single, who were going through so many of the things that I had gone through, who just said, thank you. Please keep talking about this. I had one of them say, write a book. Please write a book. And I was like, I'm sorry. Who would read that book? And then I started thinking about it and I was like, oh, okay. So it started. So at first on my fashion blog, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start writing. Maybe no one will watch, but I'm going to start writing about my experiences when I was single and how hard it was.
Yeah.
And those ended up being the most engaged, the articles that were the most engaged, and people really connected to it. And people I didn't know were sending me messages, pouring out their hearts about, oh, well, this is what I'm going through. I can so relate to that, and telling me all of these things. And it just made me realize how much we do all want to tell our story, and how important it is that we keep telling our stories, because our stories are all so different and yet have so many similarities. And the more we hear other people's stories, the more we hear all these different ways that there are to live a life, the better it makes us feel about our own, the more stronger we feel in the story that we're creating. And
Yeah.
so that was really where all of this came from. The Life Actually company was born out of those articles on a fashion blog that evolved into this. And it's a wild ride when you see how things get to where they end up being. But this is where it was supposed to be. And I'm so excited for wherever this goes from here. Who knows? Group coaching
Absolutely.
first, and we'll see. But yeah, that's where Life Actually came from.
Well, you're on a great trajectory, and so I'm glad to see all that you've accomplished. I mean, your thread is seamless. I mean, it's definitely well curated.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see your fashion.
The fashion is still there, yes.
Definitely see your fashion eye on that. You definitely worked that out. So are you able to blend all of your talents into what you're doing now to really feel like, is that why it connects better? Because I know for me, like doing the work I'm doing now, I feel like I'm using all of my many years of diverse experience to really do it. And that's what kind of brings me more joy. It makes sense of some of the silly things I feel like I experienced in my life. Is that similar for you?
Yeah, I definitely would say that. I think I have always loved writing, and I've always been I've been a good writer. But I wrote 30-second stories for TV. You know, I wrote all of these little snippets about sports and all these things that they did help me become a better writer, but it wasn't the fulfilling experience that I wanted it to be. And so when I write now, it feels like this is what you were supposed to be doing. You know, I spent 16 years in front of a TV. You get really good at interviewing people and talking to people and being comfortable out there. But I was talking about other people's lives. I was talking about sports. I was talking about things that, you know, mattered a great deal to me then, don't matter so much to me now. Right. But I have those skills that were developed, and now I can use them to speak to people. I can use them. I have a podcast in the works that is coming out at the beginning of next year, and all of my interviewing skills over the years, I feel like it was all leading to being able to do this. And yeah, so yeah, I feel like it all has kind of come together, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Well, onward and upward to you and all that you're doing. We're going to keep on talking. We're going to bring in Regina as we keep our conversation going. And this has been great, Laura. I can't wait to dive a little deeper in. Welcome in there. How you doing today, Regina? Hey there. I think she. I love it. She's having technical problems. It's all right. It's all right. She'll let us know when she gets it right. That was hilarious. I love it.
Yeah. Technology is great when it works.
It is amazing when it works, and when it doesn't, we just keep on, moving through it, just like in life. I love the fact that you're in California. How did you end up out that way?
So when I was in TV, I lived all over the country. I moved every few years because that's just how the business works. You work your way up. And I was in New York for 10 years, which was the longest that I had been anywhere other than where I grew up, which I'm from Minnesota originally. Yes. And I met my husband in New York. I mean, I love New York. It has this energy. It is a powerful place to be. It can also kick you in the ass. It is wonderful and terrible at the same time sometimes. And it was a wonderful place to spend my 30s, an absolutely wonderful place. And I loved it. But my husband and I had, we've been married 2.5 years now. We don't have family out there. My husband's from England originally, so his family is all in the UK. My family was either here in California or in Minnesota, where my parents were. And my father passed away a year ago.
I'm sorry.
And that really changed. Obviously, it changed everything for my family. My father-in-law had passed away just a few months before that. So my husband and I were in a different headspace, and it became much more important that we be closer to family. Also that we leave winter behind. So California worked out really well because this is where my brother and his family were, and aren't going anywhere. They're sticking around. So I had lived in San Francisco before. I used to work out here in TV, so I knew the area. I loved the area, and it worked out. We were one of those crazy people who bought a house during the pandemic, and here we are. I still don't know. We flew out here like under the shade of night. We were like, no one can know we're traveling because we're supposed to be in lockdown. And we snuck out for 24 hours to look at a house and come back. And here we are. So we love it.
I love it. We actually moved into the new home and a month and a half ago now. And so it's awkward, because you're going to sign contracts and so it's interesting. And then movers, they're like, It's hard to breathe with these masks on. I'm like, yeah, keep it on, keep it on though. So
Yep. Oh, I know. I know. We signed our closing papers sitting on our front stoop on a hot and humid day in New York because you can't go inside and everybody's wearing a mask. I'm like, I'm dying, but we gotta get through it.
it's what you have to do to move up. Well,
Yeah.
for that, I'm gonna try to bring Regina back on. I think she's got it all together now. Welcome.
I am so sorry, you guys.
All right. We were just talking about how technology is amazing when it works. So that
I've been up here all day ready to go, and all of a sudden, nothing wants to work for me. But it's okay,
Okay. It's okay. You are currently in what? Are you still in Lynchburg, Virginia?
No, I am not. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
You moved.
Yes, I moved. What do you know about Lynchburg?
I know a little something because I went to Norfolk State University. Okay. And so in that time in Virginia, you don't just stay in that area. You go all up and down the East Coast when you're in that area because it's literally the interstate. It's a straight shot out. So I was with Laura in New York. I was all the way in DC. We were going to Philly. I mean, it was a great time. So I know a little bit about Lynchburg. Yeah, I passed through once or twice. But thank you for joining us today and being a part of this great conversation. Good to be on with Laura and myself here. Now, for you as a confidence coach, you're someone who helps people walk in a greater amount of understanding of themselves and really gets clearer. Tell me more about what it means to you, the work that you do.
Yeah, it means everything. Honestly, Byron, I come from a place of knowing what it feels like not to be confident and not to believe in myself and to feel like I was nothing growing up as a child. I had a very supportive family, but in school, I just couldn't get it, and so I was, I still remember those words that, my teachers would tell me how I wasn't smart enough. I would have to sit in the other classroom to learn different from the other kids. So I always felt like the black sheep of the learning environment. So it just, I put on that belief. I put it on like a t-shirt that I would never be good enough. I would never be smart enough. And so that, as you can only imagine, Byron and Laura, that plays out into your whole life. If you don't learn how to change that belief system, if you don't change that remote control and change the channel, then you'll live out from that place. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. And that's what I did. I lived my life like that well into my 20s. And it showed up in bad relationships. It showed up in abusive relationships. It showed up working in environments that I felt weren't safe for me or thinking that I couldn't get anything better. It just showed up everywhere in my life. And, something in me changed. I reached that point where I said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. When you get to that point, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll start looking at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I ain't got no other choice but to believe in you now. It's me and you. And so that's what I began to do. I began to rewrite my story and recreate who I desire to be. And, little by little, I began to use this thing called confidence, what I like to say, strength with style. I say confidence is the luxury vehicle called trust that gets you from where you are to where you want to be and fast.
Come on, say that again. I didn't write that down.
And so that's what I begin to use. I begin to use the confidence to radically accept the existence called me. And I begin to birth out every single thing that I desired from that place of trust, from that place of knowing that it's not about how you started, but it's about how you finished. And I made up in my mind that I was going to teach every woman that I came in contact with how to live in the realm of unstoppable confidence by using the willpower in your mind to become whatever you believe that you can become. Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. I need to use your definition of confidence from now on.
Great.
I'm going to white out Webster's definition. No, that's really good. We're just talking about that. Laura was making a great point about her journey from singleness into a relationship and what it feels like to be single when the world's telling you you shouldn't be. And there is this thing in your life where you realize And I talk about always, in my experience, I use a lot of the creation story as to help my community really find self-love. And part of what God did when he was creating things along the way, he just paused and said, "It's good."
That's good,
And
right?
I think sometimes
Yeah.
we just don't pause enough. We're not done yet, but it's good to just pause and say, "This is good. This is
Yeah.
Today was a good day." Now I still got the rest of the month. The rest of this year is left, but today is a good day.
Yeah.
And just stop and appreciate the little things in life, and like Laura said earlier about really just taking those little things, the dog with the scarf on and all those things, really taking those things to heart, that it means something that I experienced it. I tell my
Mhm.
clients a lot about small wins.
Mhm.
Small win is getting up early, or getting up on time sometimes, just getting up, having your coffee, being able to move at a pace that's not rushed or hurried. Sometimes you just got to appreciate the little things in life, because the many small things add up to mega big things in our lives. So thank you for explaining how confidence operates. We're moving into a time where I really want to talk about some of the things that you all do more deeply. So how do you attract the love that you've always wanted? And Laura, you made good inference about becoming a person that really loved themselves. Regina, what about for you? What do you think about attracting love?
I believe for me, attracting love means that, first of all, I have to love myself. And I believe, Byron, you just said that. And I truly believe that falling in love is a inside journey. And one of the things that I live by, I say it all the time. I say, when you learn to go within, you'll never go without.
Mm,
When you learn to go within, you'll never go without. And it's when you reach that point where you are in a relationship with yourself, and you love yourself, you honor yourself, you respect yourself, you see yourself as valuable, you know that you are God's highest form of creation and there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. That's when love starts to come into your life in other forms. I feel like so many women, especially, and Byron, you can help me with the men, but I feel like so many women, especially, we're looking for love outside of ourselves before we
mm.
give ourselves it. And I believe that you must become the thing before you receive the thing.
Absolutely. I'm
Mhm.
with you 100% on that. And here's why I truly believe that is because John Maxwell has this law of lid.
Mm.
And the law of lid says that the company will never be greater than the leader. So if the leader is a six, then the company will always be a six at most, but normally a five and below. And
Mm.
I really truly believe that with our relationships. If
Mhm.
you love yourself at a five,
Mhm.
and I like using the example like this. If this is the love that you have for yourself, and this is all you can hold, and this is a five, then no matter how much is poured into you from amazing tens, it will not matter, because all you'll be able to consume
Is a
is a
level
five.
5.
Yeah.
That's good.
So
Mhm.
you end up thinking that the world is you're surrounded by fives, but
Yeah.
it's really that you are surrounded by amazing tens and nines and eights, but your capacity is not enough to see them as they are.
Yeah.
And so you
Uh,
end up treating them like they're not great when they really are. And it's interesting because I hear from people all the time about this conversation around love, and they're like, it's not until maybe an argument or they're gone and you realize, man, they were really good. Oh man, they actually did take great care of me. Oh wow, they were really loving. I might even call them back, because now I'm at a higher love level,
Mhm.
self love level, and now I realize that they were actually more like an 8 or 10. And I'm like, what was I thinking? I
Mhm.
hear that all the time, and it's because we don't see ourselves.
Byron, can I say something right
Yes,
there?
please, please.
I love what you said, and I feel like that is so true. But I want to speak for a group of women who they are attracting a level 5 because for number one, they are a level 5.
Yes.
But they're also, I believe, let's pull in. I heard Laura speaking a little bit of that law of attraction in there, and I believe that you are a vibrational. You have to become a vibrational match for that which you desire to receive. And so,
Mm,
if all you're seeing is fives, then you must come back to the table of self and say, well, what am I
Mhm.
putting out?
yeah.
Who am I? And if I want to attract bigger and better, or want to tap into the partner that I want to have, number one, you got to be clear. You got to get some clarity in there. You know, you got to be clear. And then you got to be courageous enough to know that you deserve it, whether or not you see it with your natural eye or not. You got to know that you're worthy of it and walk in that level 10. Every day I got to walk like that level 10 in order for the 10 to see a 10.
Yes.
I always say to my husband, because we met when we were in our mid to late 30s, and I always say, oh my gosh, I wish we would have met 10 years ago. We would have had so much more time to travel and have fun before we had to get serious about anything. Like, that would have been great. And he always has said to me from the very beginning, 10 years ago, when I was 28, I would not have known how to treat you. Girl. And I was like, you know what? I would not have known to demand that.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
You know, we're learning every day, and these things take time. But yeah, I put up with so much crap 10 years prior to meeting him that, no way.
You said a whole mouthful, Laura, right there.
Right.
I tell people when they talk about going back to an ex and all the great things that maybe they did something wrong in the relationship and they want to take about it, like, the relationship will never be the same.
Yeah.
It will never be the same relationship because you are always a different person and you now think differently and you're completely different people now.
Yeah.
And you have some core things like your history that you can go back to. But if you're talking about living in your now and your future, you are a completely different person. Yeah. I love this. There's a proverb, African proverb, talks about you will never encounter the same stream. And it says that the stream will always be flowing, so the water is new, and you at every moment come to it as a new person. So your experience at the same stream is always different. And that is so true with our relationships. We have to realize that even if we had the same talk a month from now, we will be different people a month from now with the experiences of our lives. And this is why relationships a lot of times don't last, because we think someone is going to stay one way. We Polaroid people instead of film them. Allowing them to keep going. We Polaroid them. In fact, a lot of times we do on Instagram, we boomerang them. So you can go over it. You gotta come back. You gotta come back to this.
Yep.
What's the hardest challenge that you've experienced, Laura, being in your relationship? What's one of the hardest challenges of loving someone who's not yourself?
People always say marriage takes work. And I mean, it does. I'm not saying you just sit back and don't do anything. But that has always kind of surprised me, the amount of that some people do say, oh God, it takes so much work and you have to put up with so much and you have to just do all this. And I feel like both of us came into our relationship having done so much of our own work and having gone through so much of our own stuff that we both believe that our relationship is far more important than being right about something. So if we're ever experiencing any disagreement, anything like that, you know what? I do not have a need to be right. Yes. I have a need to make sure that we're okay, that we are healthy, that our relationship is solid, and that we know we can get through what we need to get through. We disagree, but I have never wanted to make my husband feel bad when we have a disagreement. Like I don't have this desire to like put him down or put him in his place. I never want to do that. Sometimes I want him to be like, yeah, no, just I'm right. Just let's go with this. But I know me being right is not the most important thing. Our relationship is the most important thing. And as long as we can keep coming back to that relationship component of it, then we can get through what we need to get through. But yeah.
I love it. Thank you for that. I want to take a time while we have Regina, while she's with us. That's not being funny. Is she there? Are you there? She's frozen.
She's frozen now.
Regina. It's a great picture. It was a great
freeze, though.
That was a great freeze. I had to practice that. If mine ever freezes.
I can't get my thing.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was perfect.
I'm just gonna stop and pause just in case I freeze. See, mine would be so like, You know,
Exactly.
I'll be in the middle of a laugh. Let's play a little game here. I like to do this. I do this for my clients. I do this for my friends. I do this for my partner. I like doing these on these lives as well. It's really easy. It's really easy. It's a sentence or a phrase. Sorry, sentence or phrase. It's a word or a phrase that you would answer this with. So really simple. I'll give an easy one out there. I am from, and Laura.
Minnesota.
Awesome. Regina.
Virginia.
All right. Let's go a little deeper. I experience love when, Laura.
When I feel like I can be me.
That's good. What about for you, Regina? I experience love when? Regina?
I'm sorry, it went completely frozen
Oh,
on me.
I experience it's all you.
I experience love when I am acknowledged.
Ooh, that's good. So being yourself and being acknowledged. I like those answers. The purpose of forgiveness is, Regina.
To rid me of poison.
The purpose of forgiveness is, Laura.
To help you move on.
I like that. Let's use one of Virginia's. I am most confident when, Laura.
When I know who I am.
I am most confident when, Regina.
I accept who I am.
I like acceptance. Let's see. Let's do two more here. I'm liking this a little bit. The hardest thing I've ever had to give up give up for my purpose. The hardest thing I ever had to give up for my purpose, Regina.
The smallest version of me.
The hardest thing I ever had to give up for my purpose, Laura.
The person I thought I had to be.
Y'all.
We're coaches.
Yeah, I know. That's why I love having coaches on. I love having coaches on. This is like the best. All right. What's the one word to describe why you are here, Regina?
Purpose.
The one word to describe why you are here, Laura.
Authenticity.
All right. And since we're on love and success, I, on a scale from 1 to 10, feel I am in my optimal moment of love and success. 1 through 10. Where are you, Laura, on the scale? 10 being the best.
7.5. So I feel like you always need to be moving forward.
Laura loves halves, right?
She will claim her half, okay?
Yeah, damn it, this is mine.
5'11.5. I know that. Regina?
I'm gonna say an 8.
An 8. All right. Rounding up. I like it. You ladies have been amazing. Thank you so much for taking time to be on with me today on The Heart. This has been a great talk about love and success and what it means to be a person that's evolving and becoming. Laura, you dropped some great gems on us about really, truly finding your true self and being okay with the version of yourself that people may not understand or accept. And that is okay to walk in that. And Regina, thank you for sharing that brilliant interpretation of confidence. I will never forget that. And y'all are both brilliantly amazing here. And thank you for just going through the journey and doing the work, because it's showing in what you're doing and how you're speaking and the energy that you're giving off, as Regina talked earlier about that vibration. I could feel it feels so good on here right now. For the end of this call, let me go ahead and let Laura go ahead and start us off. Tell us where everybody can find you and what you have coming up next.
Of course. So you can find me at laurabehnke.com. Last name is Behnke. Easier would be my company, the lifeactuallycompany.com. I'm also on Instagram at Laura Behnke. If you're interested in the group coaching, we have early bird enrollment that ends on Wednesday, and then we open up again on January 4th for our regular enrollment. Lifeactuallycompany.com, laurabehnke.com, Instagram, you can find links to it all over the place if you are interested. So it is for single women, and we will have more programs for more diverse audiences after that. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Oh, I got you. All right. Yes, we're going to do that. What about you, Regina? Tell us where we are, where we can find you. All you, Regina. Go for it.
First of all, Byron, I have to know this. Can you sing?
I can. I in my past life. So it's one of my past lives.
Can you sing?
It's one of my past lives. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. She doesn't want to go. That's why she's messing this up, so she doesn't have to get off. I know what's happening. I know what's happening.
Anyway, you can find me. You can sound like you can sing. I'm like,
it's my old preacher voice. You know, it comes out every now and then.
Well, my name is Regina Bonds. You can find me. Can you guys see me and hear me?
We can hear you. You are moving like a robot. I thought it was on purpose. I thought she was giving me.
Flexing the moves.
Well, you can find me at reginabonds.com. I am getting ready to do.
Keep going. You good. You got it. I don't think you got this. You can do it. Yeah.
Okay, you can find me at reginabonds.com. I'm getting ready to start the year off with the 21-day confidence challenge.
Your girl Jennifer looking out for you. She put that in there. I'm here for it. Well, we are going, Bridget. Yeah, I figured that was about what was going to happen. But thank you for Jennifer Huffman for putting that in. Please find her at Regina Bonds with the S.com. Laura, thank you so much for being on as well. This has been an amazing talk, and to everyone who is out there and is needing more of their self-love, I really want you to consider reaching out to Laura if you're a single woman, reaching out to Regina or myself if you need help. There are plenty of people out there, and you see at least 3 of them here who can help you in a great way to become clear about who you are, what you deserve, and really find the love that will help you attract whatever it is that you're looking for in your life, as long as it's good things. All right. And we've, because I know some people that are attracted to the wrong stuff. So to all of you out there, remember what we say. You're worth the love you seek. So seek higher love. You have a beautiful day. Thank you again, Laura, for being on with me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Byron. This has been great. Thanks.
I love you. It's my pleasure indeed, and I look forward to talking with you on a later time. Enjoy your holidays, by the way.
You too. You too. Happy holidays.
Thank you, and send good love to the Mr. and the doggy. All right.
Will do. Will do.
To everyone out there, be safe. Happy holidays. We'll see you again on The Heart. Take care.